You know that feeling when your whole world explodes in the span of 30 seconds? When everything you thought was real turns out to be theater? Yeah, well, I learned that lesson the hard way on a rainy Friday in October, standing in my own hallway like some kind of idiot spy, listening to my girlfriend destroy me over the phone. I'd parked my beat-up Ford Escape outside our rental house in suburban Portland earlier than usual. The logistics company where I work as a manager had sent everyone home because their ancient computer system decided to have a breakdown. Perfect timing, I thought. I could surprise Emily with her favorite vanilla latte from Starbucks and maybe convince her to try that new Mexican place on Hawthorne Street. Our house was nothing fancy, just another cookie-cutter rental with a front lawn that I constantly forgot to mow and a mailbox that leaned at a concerning angle. But it was ours, or so I thought. I slipped through the front door quietly, kicked off my soggy Nike sneakers, and hung my jacket on the hook by the entrance. That's when I heard Emily's voice drifting from the kitchen, sharp, trembling, like she was holding back tears or rage. Maybe both. She was on the phone with her mother Linda, who called from Seattle practically every damn day. I was about to call out, "Hey babe, I'm home," when her words hit me like a freight train. "Mom, I can't stand him anymore," she said, her voice cracking with frustration. "He irritates me in absolutely everything. His very existence is suffocating me. I don't know how to live with him." The coffee cups I'd been carrying might as well have turned to lead in my hands. My heart started hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Emily was talking about me, about Jake, about the guy who'd just been planning to surprise her with her favorite drink. I stood frozen in our narrow hallway, gripping the wall for support, as she continued her character assassination. "He's always here, Mom, always asking about my day, always wanting to do things together. I feel like I'm drowning. Every morning I wake up and see his face, and I can't breathe. He thinks everything is perfect between us, but I'm dying inside." Each word felt like a scalpel cutting into my chest. 2 years. 2 goddamn years we'd been together. 2 years of what I thought was happiness, of planning our future, of talking about marriage and buying a house with a bigger yard. "I know you think I should just tell him," Emily continued, and I could hear her pacing around the kitchen. "But you don't understand. He's so clingy, so needy. He hangs on my every word like some lost puppy. It's pathetic, really. Sometimes I look at him and wonder what I ever saw in him." That last line nearly brought me to my knees. Pathetic. She thought I was pathetic. I don't remember backing toward the door. I don't remember grabbing my keys. All I know is that suddenly I was sitting in my car in the driveway, rain hammering against the windshield, her words echoing in my skull like a broken record. "His very existence is suffocating me." I turned the key and drove. I didn't know where. I just drove. The interstate stretched ahead of me, slick with rain and blurred by my own stupidity. My hands shook on the steering wheel as I replayed every interaction we'd had over the past few months. Had she been faking it all? Every smile, every kiss, every time she'd grab my hand while we walked through Washington Park. After an hour of aimless driving, I spotted a faded roadside sign. Pine Rest Motel, clean rooms, cable TV. The neon sign buzzed and flickered, the letter P struggling to stay lit. It looked like the kind of place people went to hide from their mistakes. The old man behind the reception desk barely looked up from his newspaper when I walked in, dripping wet. He had stubble, wore a flannel shirt that had seen better decades, and smelled like cigarettes and disappointment. "Need a room?" he asked without much interest. "Yeah, just for the night," I lied. Room 12 smelled like industrial carpet cleaner, trying to mask decades of questionable life choices. The bedspread was that generic floral pattern designed to hide stains, and the TV was one of those old boxy ones that probably weighed more than my car. I threw my overnight bag on the floor and collapsed onto the bed. It creaked ominously under my weight. The ceiling had a water stain that looked suspiciously like Texas. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. 3 missed calls from Emily already. Either she'd discovered I'd overheard her conversation, or she was worried about me getting home in the storm. Probably the latter. She'd always been good at playing the concerned girlfriend. I turned the phone off and shoved it into my bag. I couldn't handle hearing her voice right now. Not when I'd be wondering if every word was another lie. Days blended into each other. I fell into a routine. Wake up, shower in the motel's questionable bathroom, walk to Mel's diner across the street for coffee and whatever passed for food, sit in my room watching cable TV reruns, and try not to think about Emily. The trying not to think part wasn't working so well. My phone stayed off. I'd started carrying it around like some sort of digital security blanket, but I couldn't bring myself to turn it on. Schrodinger's girlfriend. As long as I didn't look, Emily was both desperately searching for me and relieved I was gone. On Wednesday, or maybe it was Thursday, time had become negotiable. I was sitting in my usual booth at Mel's when a trucker at the counter started talking about his ex-wife. She used to tell her friends I was this great guy, he said, gesturing with a forkful of pie. Posted all kinds of happy couple crap on Facebook. Then one day I come home early and hear her on the phone with her sister, calling me every name in the book. The waitress, her name was Betty, shook her head sympathetically. Some people are just good at wearing masks. That's the thing, though, the trucker continued. I never knew which version was real. The one who kissed me goodbye every morning, or the one who thought I was roadkill with a paycheck. I nearly choked on my coffee. It was like listening to my own life story told by a stranger. What did you do? I found myself asking. He looked over at me. Left. Figured if she really felt that way, staying would just make us both miserable. Been on the road ever since. Sometimes I wonder if I should have tried to work it out, but he shrugged. How do you fix something when you don't even know what's real? That question followed me back to room 12 and kept me awake most of the night. On Friday, and exactly 1 week since I'd fled my own life, I finally cracked and turned on my phone. The screen lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, voicemails that would probably take me until Christmas to get through. Most were from Emily, a few from my sister Sarah, one from my boss, one from Kyle, my drinking buddy from college, which was weird because we hadn't talked in months. I scrolled through Emily's messages first. Jake, where are you? I'm getting worried. Please call me back. This isn't like you. I'm scared something happened. Please just let me know you're okay. Baby, whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Just come home. But then I got to Kyle's message. Dude, what the hell is going on? Emily's all over the news looking for you. She's got the whole city searching. News? What news? With shaking hands, I called Kyle back. Jesus, Jake, finally, he answered on the first ring. Where the hell are you? Emily filed a missing person report. She's been on every local channel crying about how you just vanished. She what? Turn on channel 12, man. She was just on the morning show. She's got your picture and everything, begging people to help find you. Says you left without explanation, and she's worried you might hurt yourself. I fumbled for the remote and flipped to K2 News. There she was. Emily, my Emily, standing in front of our house, holding a framed photo of us from last year's trip to Lake Tahoe. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that hadn't seen a brush in days. Jake, if you're watching this, please come home, she said, her voice breaking. I don't know what I did wrong, but whatever it is, we can work through it. I can't live without you. I can't breathe without knowing you're safe. I stared at the screen in complete disbelief. The same woman who'd called me pathetic and suffocating was now on television, playing the role of devastated girlfriend to perfection. What kind of twisted game was this? My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Jake, I don't know what happened between you two, but Emily's losing her mind. She called me crying, asking if I knew where you were. She seems genuinely terrified something happened to you. I turned off the TV and stared at the water stain on the ceiling. Everything I thought I knew had just been turned upside down again. Either Emily was the world's most manipulative sociopath, or I'd misunderstood something fundamental about that phone conversation. The local news had apparently decided my disappearance was the biggest story. Since that time, a sea lion wandered into downtown Portland. Emily was everywhere. Channel 6 had her doing an interview in our living room, surrounded by photos of us looking happy. Channel 8 caught her outside the grocery store, looking devastated while buying my favorite cereal. Just in case he comes home. But here's the thing that really messed with my head. She was good. Really good. The tears looked real. The desperation in her voice seemed genuine. If I hadn't heard that phone conversation, I'd have believed every word. Around noon, Sarah showed up at the motel. I don't know how she found me, but Sarah had always been resourceful. "Jake Miller, you open this door right now or I'm calling the police myself," she yelled through the thin wood. I let her in. She took one look at my week-old clothes and the mountain of junk food wrappers and immediately went into big sister mode. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she demanded. "Emily's been going crazy. She thinks you're dead in a ditch somewhere. And you're here eating Doritos and watching cable?" "She doesn't think I'm dead," I said. "She's probably throwing a party every night I'm gone." Sarah's expression shifted from anger to confusion. "What are you talking about?" So I told her everything. The phone conversation, Emily's words about how pathetic and suffocating I was. Sarah listened without interrupting, her face growing more troubled with each detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Jake," she said finally, "are you absolutely sure she was talking about you?" "Who else would she be talking about?" "I don't know. Her job? Her mother? That weird neighbor?" Sarah pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "Look, I'm not Emily's biggest fan, you know that. But I've been watching her on the news all week, and that's not acting. That's a woman who's genuinely terrified she's lost someone she loves." She showed me her phone screen, Emily's Instagram account. Post after post of our photos together, us at the farmer's market, us hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, us being stupid and happy. The captions were raw, desperate. "Come home, Jake. Please just come home. I was wrong about everything. I need you. Every photo reminds me of how much I love you. Don't leave me." "When did she post these?" I asked. "Every day since you disappeared. Multiple times a day. Jake, she's not eating. She's not sleeping. She called your boss crying, asking if you'd been acting strange at work." I stared at the photos. Us laughing, us kissing, us looking like people who belong together. But I couldn't shake Emily's voice from that phone conversation. "Maybe she's just good at covering," I said weakly. Sarah grabbed my shoulders. "Or maybe you misunderstood what you heard. Maybe she was venting about something else entirely, and you just assumed it was about you because you're an idiot who thinks everything is your fault." Could that be possible? What if I'd been wrong? What if I destroyed everything over a misunderstanding? "I don't know what to believe anymore," I admitted. Sarah stood up and headed for the door. "Then figure it out, because Emily's not the only one who's been worried sick." She paused with her hand on the doorknob. "But whatever you decide, decide soon. Someone spotted your car here yesterday. It's only a matter of time before the news crews show up." Sunday morning brought the complication I'd been dreading. I was walking back from Mel's diner when I spotted the news van parked in the motel lot. Channel 6. Someone with a camera was interviewing the old man from the front desk. I ducked behind a dumpster like some kind of fugitive. The reporter was the same blonde woman who'd been interviewing Emily all week. I could hear fragments of their conversation. "Confirmed he's been staying here? Seemed depressed, kept to himself. Paid cash every night." I snuck around the back of the motel and climbed through the window of room 12. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. More calls from Emily, from Sarah, from people I barely knew who'd apparently seen the news coverage. "Kyle, dude, this is insane. Emily's Instagram is blowing up. People are sending her messages from all over the country. Find Jake Portland is trending." A hashtag? I'd become a hashtag? I turned on the TV and immediately regretted it. There I was, or rather, there were photos of me. My face was plastered across the screen while some news anchor talked about the mysterious disappearance of Jake Miller. Then Emily appeared on screen again, this time outside the Pine Rest Motel. She was talking to the reporter. "I just want him to know that whatever's wrong, we can fix it," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Jake, if you're watching this, please come home. I love you. I need you. I can't do this without you." She looked absolutely broken, destroyed. Either she deserved an Oscar, or I was the biggest idiot in Oregon. Monday brought a development that made me realize just how out of control this situation had become. Someone knocked on my door. Not Sarah's authoritative knock. This was different, hesitant, almost scared. "Jake?" Emily's voice muffled by the door. "Jake, are you in there?" My heart stopped. She'd found me. "The man at the front desk said you've been staying here. she continued. I know you probably don't want to see me, but we need to talk. Please. I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the door like it might explode. She was right there, 3 feet away. The woman I'd loved for 2 years, the woman who'd called me pathetic, the woman who'd spent a week crying on television about losing me. I'm not going anywhere, she said. I'll sit out here all night if I have to. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the sound of rain starting up again. I know you're angry with me, she said finally. I know I must have done something terrible for you to leave like this. Just tell me what it was. I closed my eyes and tried to think clearly. What did I actually know? I knew I'd heard her say she couldn't stand living with me. I knew she'd spent a week publicly grieving my disappearance. One of those things was a lie, but which one? Jake, I can't sleep, she continued, her voice breaking. I can't eat. I can't function. Every time my phone rings, I think it's going to be the police telling me they found your body somewhere. Emily, I said finally, my voice rough from a week of minimal use. Jake? She sounded like she'd just heard the voice of God. Jake, you're there. Can you open the door? Please? My hand hovered over the doorknob. This was it, the moment of truth. I turned the lock and opened the door. Emily looked terrible. Beautiful, but terrible. Dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Hair that had been styled hastily. She was holding her phone in one hand and what looked like a bag of my favorite donuts. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she launched herself at me, wrapping her arms around my neck and sobbing into my shoulder. I thought you were dead, she whispered. I thought I'd lost you forever. Her tears felt real. Her desperation felt real. Everything about this moment felt real, but her voice from that phone conversation had felt real too. Emily, I said, trying to extract myself from her embrace. We need to talk. She stepped back and let me into room 12. She looked around at the disaster I'd created, and her face crumpled with fresh tears. Oh, Jake, she said. What have I done to you? Emily sat in the room's only chair while I perched on the edge of the bed, trying to figure out where to start. I need to ask you something, I said finally, and I need you to be completely honest with me. She nodded eagerly. Anything. Last Friday, when you were talking to your mother on the phone, I paused, watching her face. You said some things about not being able to stand living with someone anymore, about their existence being suffocating. Emily's expression shifted from hope to confusion. What? When? I came home early. You were in the kitchen talking to Linda. You said you couldn't stand him anymore, that he irritated you and everything, that living with him was suffocating. She stared at me for a long moment, then her eyes went wide with understanding. Oh my God, she said. Jake, no. I wasn't talking about you. Then who were you talking about? Emily's face went through a series of emotions. Realization, horror, and something that might have been relief. My boss, Derek. I was talking about Derek. Derek? Emily's boss was a middle-aged marketing director who wore too much cologne and had a habit of standing too close to people when he talked. Derek? I repeated. Yes, Derek's been making my life hell for months. He hovers over my desk, questions every decision I make. Last week, he started requiring me to copy him on everything. I feel like I can't breathe at work anymore. The pieces started falling into place. You said living with him. Working with him, Emily exclaimed. I said I didn't know how to keep working with him. Mom was telling me I should talk to HR, but you know how those corporate harassment things go. I stared at her, my entire week of misery suddenly reshaping itself. You were talking about your boss. Yes, Jake, how could you think I was talking about you? You're the only good thing in my life. Fresh tears started streaming down her face. When you disappeared, I thought maybe I'd been so stressed about work that I'd pushed you away without realizing it. The relief hit me like a physical blow. I heard you say, he's pathetic, I said weakly. Emily's face scrunched up in confusion, then cleared. I said Derek's pathetic, because he is. He's a middle-aged man who still thinks hitting on his female employees is charming. I dropped my head into my hands. I'm such an idiot. No, Emily said, moving to sit beside me on the bed. You're not an idiot. You misunderstood something, and instead of asking me about it, you ran away. That's just human. I made you think I was dead for a week. You made me realize how much I love you, she corrected. Jake, I've never been so scared in my life. Not just scared that something had happened to you, but scared that I'd lost you because I'm terrible at communicating. She took my hand, and for the first time in a week, something felt right again. I know I've been stressed lately, she continued. I know I've been weird about talking about the future, but that's not because I don't want those things. It's because I want them so much it terrifies me. I've never felt this way about anyone before. I looked at her face, really looked at it. The exhaustion, the relief and love and lingering fear in her eyes. This was Emily, my Emily. I love you too, I said. I'm sorry I didn't just ask you about what I heard. Promise me something, she said, squeezing my hand. Promise me that if you ever think something's wrong between us, you'll talk to me about it instead of running away to a motel. I promise. She kissed me then, soft and desperate and full of relief. It tasted like forgiveness and new beginnings. The drive back to Portland was surreal. Emily had convinced the news crews to leave by promising them an exclusive interview later, and Sarah had handled the police paperwork. As we pulled into our driveway, I noticed that our mailbox had been fixed. Emily had apparently spent part of her search week doing home improvement projects. I also organized your closet, she said, noticing my stare, and cleaned out the garage. Grief makes me productive, apparently. Inside, our house felt different. Not because anything had physically changed, but because I was seeing it through the lens of almost losing it. The coffee cups we'd left in the sink, the book Emily had been reading, the framed photo of us at Pike Place Market. This was home. This was real. Emily grabbed my hand as we stood in our living room. I don't want to go back to work tomorrow, she said. I want to call in sick and spend the day with you. I want to go to the farmer's market and buy overpriced vegetables and take stupid selfies and remember how to be us again. I love your plan, all of it. We spent the rest of the evening on the couch, ordering pizza and watching the news coverage of my rescue. It was bizarre seeing our story told by strangers who had no idea what had really happened. Emily's Instagram notifications were going crazy. Her posts about my disappearance had gained thousands of followers. The comments on her "he's home" post were overwhelming. So happy for you both. Love wins. You guys are relationship goals. Should I tell them the truth? Emily asked, scrolling through the messages. That you weren't actually kidnapped? You just thought I was talking about you when I was complaining about my boss. God, no, I said. Let them think we're relationship goals. She laughed and curled up against my side. Outside, Portland rain drummed against our windows with that steady rhythm that had driven me away a week ago. Now it sounded like home. Jake, Emily said sleepily. Yeah? Next time you think I'm talking about you when I'm complaining about someone, just ask me. Deal. And next time your boss makes you feel like you can't breathe, tell me immediately. Deal. She fell asleep against my shoulder while we were watching late-night TV, and I didn't move for hours. I just sat there, holding the woman I'd almost lost through my own stupidity, feeling grateful for second chances. But here's the thing about happy endings. They're only as strong as the foundation they're built on. And over the next few weeks, as the novelty of our reunion wore off, I started noticing things. Little things. Like how Emily would sometimes check her phone and then quickly put it away when I walked into the room. Or how she'd started working late more often, claiming she was updating her resume. Or how she'd become suddenly interested in going to the gym every evening, always coming home energized and chatty in a way that seemed forced. I told myself I was being paranoid. I'd almost destroyed everything once by jumping to conclusions. Emily loved me. She'd proven that during my disappearance. People don't fake that level of devotion, do they? 3 weeks after my return, Kyle texted me, "Dude, you need to see Emily's Instagram story. Like right now." My stomach dropped. I opened Instagram and went to Emily's profile. Her story showed her at some trendy downtown bar, laughing with a group of people I didn't recognize. She was wearing the dress she'd bought for our anniversary dinner. The timestamp said 7:30 p.m. She'd told me she was working late at the office. I stared at the photo for a long time, trying to find an innocent explanation. Maybe it was a work event. Maybe she'd forgotten to mention it. But Kyle's next text made my blood freeze. "Isn't that Derek in the background?" I zoomed in on the photo. There, partially obscured by other people, but definitely recognizable, was Derek. Emily's supposedly awful boss, the man whose existence she couldn't stand. He was laughing at something, holding a beer, looking perfectly comfortable, looking like he belonged there. My hand started shaking as I called Emily's number. It went straight to voicemail. I texted her, "Hey, just wanted to check in. How's the job hunt going?" The response came an hour later. "Good, still at the office, but making progress. Will be home late. Love you." She was lying. She was at a bar with Derek, posting about it on social media, and lying to me about where she was. Just like she lied about. What exactly? Had she lied about Derek being a problem? Had she lied about loving me? Or was I doing it again? Was I creating problems where none existed? As I sat in my office staring at that Instagram story, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I thought I'd learned about truth and trust was about to be tested again. And this time, I might not like what I discovered. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to Emily, who came home at midnight smelling like beer and perfume, and listened to her breathe while my mind raced through possibilities. She'd mumbled something about the office being stuffy and needing fresh air. Perfectly reasonable, except for the part where she'd been at a bar with Derek. The next morning I made coffee and tried to act normal while Emily got ready for work. She seemed perfectly fine, chatty, affectionate, looking forward to another day of job hunting. "How late do you think you'll be tonight?" I asked casually. "Not sure," she said, checking her reflection. "I have a phone interview at 4, and then I might stay to finish updating my portfolio." "That's great," I said. And it was, if it was true. After she left, I found myself in a familiar position, standing in our hallway, wondering what was real and what wasn't. But this time, I wasn't going to run away. This time, I was going to find out the truth. I called Sarah. "Jake Miller," she answered immediately. "Please tell me you're not calling from another motel." "I'm at home," I said, "but I need to ask you something, and you're going to think I'm being paranoid again." I told her about the Instagram story, about Derek being there, about Emily lying about working late. Sarah listened without interrupting. "Jake," she said finally, "I hate to say this, but that is weird. Right? But there could be explanations. Maybe it was a work thing. Maybe Derek was just there coincidentally. Or maybe she lied about Derek being a problem because she needed an explanation for why she was talking about someone she couldn't stand living with." The words hung in the air between us. What if Emily really had been talking about me that day? What if the Derek story was a convenient cover? "There's only one way to find out," Sarah said. "You have to talk to her. Directly, tonight. And if she lies again, then you'll know." Emily came home at 11 p.m., later than usual, but not suspiciously so. She looked tired but happy, like someone who'd had a productive day. She kissed me hello and headed straight for the shower. I waited until she was settled on the couch with her laptop. "How was Derek today?" I asked. Emily's fingers paused over the keyboard for just a fraction of a second. "Same as always, annoying." "Still hovering over your desk?" "Yep, it's one of the many reasons I can't wait to get out of there." I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. "Someone posted a photo of you last night, at that bar downtown." Emily's face went through a series of micro-expressions so quickly I almost missed them. Surprise, guilt, calculation, then finally resignation. "Jake," she said slowly, closing her laptop. "I can explain." "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "Derek wasn't there coincidentally. It was his birthday party. The whole marketing team went out to celebrate." "His birthday party?" "Yes, and before you ask, yes, I lied about working late, but not for the reason you think." I waited. "Derek isn't actually a creep," she said, the words coming out in a rush. "He's not a bad boss. He's actually pretty great. The team loves him." My stomach started sinking. "Then why?" "Because I was having doubts about us," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "About you and me, about moving in together permanently, about getting married, about all the future stuff we keep talking about." I was scared and confused, and when Mom called that day, I was venting about feeling trapped. Trapped by me. Trapped by the idea of commitment, by the fear that if we took the next step and it didn't work out, I'd lose the best relationship I'd ever had. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. So I told her I was suffocating, that I didn't know how to live with these feelings. And then when I disappeared, you realized you didn't want to lose me after all? No, Emily said firmly. When you disappeared, I realized that I'd been an idiot, that my fears about commitment were nothing compared to the fear of actually losing you. I stared at her, trying to process what she was telling me. So you made up the story about Derek to cover for the fact that you were actually talking about me? I panicked. You looked so hurt, so broken. You'd been hiding in a motel for a week thinking I hated you. I couldn't tell you that I'd been having doubts. So you lied. So I protected you from information that was no longer relevant. Emily stood up and started pacing. Jake, whatever doubts I had before you disappeared are gone. Completely gone. That week without you was the worst week of my life. I felt like I was falling through space. Everything I thought I'd figured out was wrong again. Emily hadn't been talking about a creepy boss. She'd been talking about me, about us, about her fears of commitment, and then she'd lied about it to protect my feelings. What else have you lied about? I asked. Nothing, Emily said immediately. Jake, I swear to you, that's the only lie. Everything else, how much I love you, how scared I was when you were gone, all of that is true. How do I know? The question hung between us like a challenge. Emily stopped pacing and looked at me with something that might have been desperation. Because I'm telling you the truth now, she said. Even though it might make you leave. Even though it might destroy everything we've rebuilt. I'm telling you the truth because I love you more than I'm afraid of losing you. We stayed up until 3 a.m, talking through everything. Emily told me about her fears of commitment, about watching her parents' marriage fall apart when she was 12, about her terror that loving someone too much would somehow curse the relationship. The thing is, Emily said as we finally headed to bed, I think we're both afraid of the same thing. We're afraid of being vulnerable with someone who could destroy us. But that's what love is, I said. You give them the power to destroy you and trust that they won't use it. I know that intellectually, but emotionally? Emily shook her head. I've been playing it safe my whole life. You're the first person who's ever made me want to risk everything. We curled up in bed together, exhausted by honesty. But something felt different, cleaner, like we'd finally stopped performing for each other and started being real. Jake? Emily said as I was drifting off to sleep. Yeah? I'm going to quit my job. What? Why? Because I lied about Derek, and now I can't face him knowing what I said about him. I can't keep working there. I turned to face her in the dark. Emily, you don't have to. Yes, I do. It's the right thing to do. We'll figure out something else, I said. Together. She smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it looked completely genuine. Emily quit her job the next day, explaining to HR that there had been a misunderstanding and that she felt it was best for everyone if she moved on. The guilt was eating her alive. I could see it in the way she picked at her food, the way she checked her phone constantly, the way she apologized for random things throughout the day. Emily threw herself into job hunting with the intensity of someone trying to outrun their guilt. She applied for dozens of positions, went on interview after interview, and networked with a desperation that made me worry about her mental state. Meanwhile, I was dealing with my own guilt. Emily had quit a job she loved because of lies she'd told to protect me from truths I couldn't handle. Her financial stress was my fault. Her professional uncertainty was my fault. 2 weeks after she quit, Emily got called back for a third interview at a marketing firm across town. It was a good position. Better pay, more responsibility. She was perfect for it. She didn't get it. They said I interviewed well, she told me, staring at the rejection email. But they had concerns about why I left my last job so suddenly. When they asked Derek for a reference, he was vague and uncomfortable. Because he doesn't understand what happened either. Because I destroyed my reputation in one brilliant move. Emily closed her laptop and dropped her head into her hands. I'm unhireable, Jake. No one's going to want to hire someone who quit their last job under mysterious circumstances. I wanted to fix this. I wanted to find a solution that would undo all the damage we'd both caused. But some mistakes can't be undone. Some lies have consequences that ripple out beyond the people who told them. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Emily had been rejected for another position, This one at a nonprofit that seemed perfect for her. The feedback was the same. Great qualifications, concerning employment history. I found her crying in our bedroom, surrounded by printed job applications and crumpled tissues. "I can't do this anymore," she said without looking up. "I can't keep pretending that everything's fine when I've ruined everything. My career, our relationship. I've poisoned all of it with my lies. Emily, we'll figure this out." "No, we won't." She stood up, her face streaked with tears and frustration. "Don't you see? This is exactly what I was afraid of. I was scared that if I committed to you completely, I'd lose myself. And that's exactly what's happened. I've lost my job, my professional reputation, my sense of who I am." I sat on the edge of our bed, watching the woman I loved fall apart. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I want you to let me go." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "I want you to let me go," Emily repeated, her voice steadier now. "I want to move out, figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be the perfect girlfriend, and maybe learn how to tell the truth without being terrified of the consequences." "Emily, no. We can work through this. I know we love each other, but love isn't enough if we can't trust each other. And how can we trust each other when I lie to protect you and you assume the worst about everything I say?" She sat down beside me, close enough to touch but feeling miles away. "We're toxic together, Jake. We bring out each other's worst insecurities." I wanted to argue with her. I wanted to promise that we'd learned our lesson, that we'd communicate better. But as I looked around our bedroom, at the job applications scattered like evidence of our failure, I realized she was right. We did bring out each other's worst qualities. My paranoia, her tendency to lie to avoid conflict, my assumption that I wasn't worth loving, her fear that commitment meant losing herself. Maybe some relationships were meant to be cautionary tales rather than love stories. Emily moved out the following weekend. Not dramatically, not with fights or ultimatums, but quietly and sadly, like someone leaving a funeral. She packed her clothes, her books, her coffee maker, and the framed photo of us from Lake Tahoe. "I'm keeping this," she said, wrapping the photo in bubble wrap. "Not because I want to torture myself, but because I want to remember that we had something real, even if we couldn't figure out how to sustain it." I helped her load boxes into her car. We were cordial, almost formal, like acquaintances completing a business transaction. Sarah had offered her couch until Emily found her own place. "Will you tell me when you find a job?" I asked as she prepared to drive away. "If you want me to." "I do." Emily nodded and got into her car. She rolled down the window and looked at me one last time. "Jake, I need you to know that I never lied about loving you. Even when I was lying about Derek, even when I was scared of commitment, I never lied about that." "I know," I said. "I love you too." "I know you do. That's what makes this so horrible." She drove away and I stood in our driveway watching her taillights disappear. The house felt different immediately, emptier, like it was exhaling after holding its breath for too long. This was what truth looked like, apparently. Clean, honest, devastating.